Unsyndicated presents Off the Air with Sean Baligian.
So glad you could join us on a Monday night. So Blake and I threw out our meanderings yesterday. We thought we'd get a real pro, a real scout who can tell us his thoughts on the draft. I mean, you can't get enough draft coverage. That's the way it is. It really is one of the biggest events on the sports calendar now. Year after year after year, it can't be denied, so don't even try to deny it. Let me welcome him in. My buddy, my pal, I've done many things with him over the years. You can find him on Twitter at Bischoff_Scott, DetroitLionsPodcast.com, FootballGuys.com. He is Scott Bischoff. What's up, Bish?
Hi, when does the real scout come on? After me?
Here we go. See. Yeah, it's
I'll stay and listen.
And here's the thing. This is why I surround myself with people like you, and of course my partner here tonight, Blake from 760 WJR, Mitch Album Show, and Sports Rap. Because you know what, you guys are a couple of guys like me. I just don't take myself seriously, man. I mean, we're sitting here. We're not sitting there trying to solve world problems. We're talking about sports. I mean, these people and their level of self-importance drive me nuts today. But I'm going to put on the happy face and be happy tonight. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I'm happy the draft is over.
Yeah.
There's always a couple week period towards the end of it where it's just like, all right, let's get it over with. Right?
100%. Yep.
Tired of talking about it. So yeah, I mean, it was a very bizarre draft, or at least the first night was really, really bizarre.
I know where we're going to start, so I'm not going to start there. Okay, there's a certain pick that everybody and their brother was talking about, and I'll get your take on it.
Not even talking about like that, just about like all the other stuff surrounding it. Like all this trade up stuff.
Yeah.
And all the quarterbacks and all this stuff.
Now, were you surprised? I mean, you mentioned the quarterback stuff, right? I want to take a screwdriver to that for just a second, because Shep and I were talking about this a few days ago. I remember vividly doing a draft show years ago, like 2011, where we were sitting there going, why aren't people surprised at this? I mean, quarterbacks go early. We can question who they are, and we will in just a minute. But is that what you're referring to, Scott? More the how did this guy go there type of aspect of it?
Yeah, some of that, but like the first 14 players being offensive players was strange.
Yeah.
I thought, and again, this is all, it's the whole expectations, reality, whatever. I was expecting unrealistic things. I thought Dallas Turner might go a little sooner. Not that I loved him as a player or any of that stuff. I just thought that Atlanta might. Fully saw through the Chargers stuff. I thought the entire time that they would be taking a tackle. In the end, it sounded like people were trying to push J.C. Latham there, but all to me was the superior player, and it wasn't. I don't want to say it wasn't close, but he is a really, really high end tackle. It's just, one of those two. It's either him or Rashawn Slater now have to play right tackle.
Yeah.
So, but that's the Harbaugh kind of thing. Like we're gonna do it my way, and we're gonna run the ball, and we're gonna be big and tough and all this stuff. It was just, the 14 straight offensive players. I don't know how what I'm trying to say is the Lions seem to be the anti-Red Wings over the last 4 years. The Red Wings just have gotten violated for years in the draft lottery, right? And it seems since since Brad Holmes and Campbell have gotten here, they have just been lucky beyond lucky in drafts. Like,
Yep.
Penix falling to them in hindsight looks ridiculous, but it happened. And he is one of the best players in the NFL, right? And then, we'll see what happens in the future, but Aiden Hutchinson looks like, Trayvon Walker might be a really good player down the road. But it's still, you got a really good player for this city, a really nice fit. This year, they got fortunate with all those offensive players getting jammed in the first, half of the round. Then a player like Terrion Arnold is available to them when there's just no way he should have been. And it didn't really cost them much to go get him. It's just kind of crazy to think about. Team, as close as they were to being in the Super Bowl, and they are literally, I think, like one bounce, one first down, one stop on defense, and you're in the Super Bowl. That team just added, I think, for what they do on defense, the best defensive back that they could have added, and another one who I think will start for them either as a boundary corner, maybe even as a safety in the future, in Ennis Rakestraw. He's going to play for them. He's very talented. He's super competitive, all that stuff. This team just added those two guys. It's like, well, the hole was in their secondary, and they've really, they have really taken a shovel to what it was and turned that thing over. And it's now a strength, and it's potentially a problem. The Lions are going to lose really good players at points because they're just going to be gone. They're going to have to go somewhere else to play. It's a great,
wonderful problem to have, huh?
Indeed. Yes.
All right, Blake, do you want to get it out of the way? One of us have to get it out of the way. If you want to get it out of the way, you get it out.
Also, I wanted to, give Scott some props, because when we were talking about who the Lions could take at 29, he was talking about Ennis Rakestraw weeks ago, and that was at 29.
Right on this show, Scott.
Lots of people were. So
I don't listen to other people. I was listening to you.
Oh, well.
So
all right,
I'm gonna give you some flowers.
You
liked that pick at 29, and they got him in the second round at 61. So you deserve props for that, my friend.
Thank you. I was off by a round, but whatever. It's all good.
It's called value.
Well, sure. We'll get to that in just a second. Go ahead.
The Michael Penix pick. I was losing my mind about this, and I can understand if you wanted to draft a quarterback, but why would you draft the oldest quarterback in this class? Him and Bo Nix are the two old guys. If you're going to sit on him for a couple of years behind Kirk Cousins, that part of it is the part that doesn't make any sense to me. If you want to stash a guy, like do the Green Bay thing, I'm totally for it, but not that guy.
Yeah, I agree. And I think more teams should be doing the Kansas City thing. Even if you draft a premium guy, it's okay for that player not to necessarily play in year one. Think about like what Drake May's going to deal with for the Patriots if they start him right away. But to your point, Penix is 24. He is a very beat up body. It is a super, super confusing, unless you consider that, and even as this comes out of my mouth, it doesn't necessarily make a ton of sense. Unless you think they don't believe they're going to be drafting early enough, even in the next 3 years, to be getting a quarterback that they like. Specifically in the next 2 years, I would say that Atlanta's primed to be, with good quarterback play, I think they will win that division or compete for that division. Mm-hmm. They're not going to be, in a position to take quarterback early in the next few drafts. I don't know if anybody's looked at next year's draft. The quarterback, it's not. Mm-hmm. Secondarily to that, do they even think they're going to have a first round pick? Right? Like, I don't know if that's a thing, but there's definitely going to be punishment for the tampering. And is that a consideration for them that we're not going to be in position next year to take a quarterback because we're not going to have a pick. We think we're a competitive team. They have a good offensive line. Even if Kirk Cousins were to go down, Penix can play. They have weapons all over the place. That's not a team that's going to be playing a lot of losing football. That's the only thing I could think of.
That
I don't think it makes sense.
Scott, honestly, I brought it up to Blake last night. One of my media buddies in Atlanta said the same thing to me. It brought up the T word, the tampering thing.
Can you guys refresh my memory, though? Who are they being accused of tampering?
Cousins.
Really?
Yeah, they were talking to Cousins when they weren't allowed to. And if you look at what
that never happens in the National Football League.
Right. Like that, yeah, the legal tampering window. So teams have lost their first round pick for this kind of stuff. So I would think that Atlanta would be thinking, just based on some of this stuff and that pick alone, Atlanta would be thinking we're not going to have a first round pick next year. And we think we're going to be competitive enough 2-3 years down the line that we're just not, we're not going to be drafting early enough to get a quarterback that we really, really like. And it's not out of the realm to think they liked Cousins as much as they liked anybody else in this draft. He's a really good quarterback. He's just a little older. The problem is going to be that for them, what happens in, say, year 4 years from now, when they have to financially commit to him and they don't totally know what they have. That's good, but that's a separate kind of a thing. He's a good player. He's, is he going to develop there with Cousins? I don't know. I mean, Cousins can be, he's a different dude. I don't know that he's going to make things, super easy for Penix, but, the other side of it is that they paid Cousins $100 million for essentially 3 years. He is an older quarterback coming off an Achilles tear. Who knows? All
right. Some comments, and then I got to tell you about our friends at Legacy. Chris said, hello, gents. Happy Maple Leaf Elimination Day Eve. Yeah, that thing's over tomorrow. Tim said, if their pass D is no worse than 15, they'll be a serious championship contender. They had to revamp it. I have no problem with that. They revamped it. We're going to get more in specifics about the Lions picks in just a moment. Dave said the Leafs are gone with the win tomorrow. Then the dismantle begins, I would think. I don't know how you could bring Sheldon Keefe back. I mean, the argument could have been made that he should have been gone 3 years ago. Scott, I'll get your thoughts quickly on this. Blake Corum, good selection by the Rams. I have question marks about Blake Corum. I root for Blake Corum. I'm serious. He's a great kid. I have some question marks about him. Brett said, why Penix over JJ? So let's start with Blake Corum. I think we all know about the knee injury, not quite the same player, et cetera, et cetera. How do you think it translates with the Rams? If there was a good fit for him, I think it might be a team like the Rams.
Yeah. If you look at Kyren Williams and how effective he was last year, and he was ridiculous. The testing, I mean, he fell because he tested like a very poor athlete. Corum is not. So, I mean, it's interesting. They turned into a very run heavy team with McVay, which is super curious, right? Kyren Williams has some injury history himself, and you can never have too many of those guys. I think if you're a downhill running game where you just want to run the ball, having two guys who are effective doing that kind of stuff makes a ton of sense, and they're redundant with one another. One of the things that Corum can do that he didn't necessarily do at Michigan is catch the ball out of the backfield. He's really good on third down. There's a reliability that comes with his game that I think is undervalued, meaning he could step in as a rookie if Williams were to miss time or whatever it is and perform just as well. He's fine. And, in the NFL these days, if you're spending a 3rd round pick on a running back, you're kind of spending up.
Yeah.
But, that the premium is knowing what he can do as a shorter guy, carrying the ball and just generating first downs and running your offense. I think it's a fine pick. He's a good player. I think that if you look at Kyron Williams and you just view him as in a vacuum with, for being as good as he was last year, why are you doing anything else? He's really that good, but you need more than one. In the NFL these days, you have to have more than one.
Penix over JJ. I guess, Scott, every scouting staff is different. There's no doubt about that. If they like something, you got to trust your scouting staff. You got to trust the process. But when you look at those two guys, I'm going to guess you had JJ above Penix, like pretty much the rest of the world.
Yeah. But if you're telling me, I just preface that with this, that if you're telling me that we're going to do a good job of pass protection and keep Penix clean, right? Like keep him upright, clean, where he's not pressured all that much. I would trust him as much as anybody else in this class to push the ball down the field and make accurate throws down the field, maybe more than anybody in this class. So I like the idea of Atlanta saying we have Drake London, we have Kyle Pitts, we have, they're going to add to that. And we're going to challenge defenses vertically with Penix. The problem is you're doing it with Cousins first. So, as far as the comparing, contrasting to JJ, I think Penix is probably a more accurate thrower to the vertical parts of the field. He made some wild throws when he's got really nice arm talent, all that stuff. It's just, they're completely different players when things break down. So if things break down, I would trust it and want a player like JJ over Penix. I'd want JJ period over Penix, but I can see a team thinking if we keep him, if we get good protection, he's going to pick defenses apart. And he did. So, it's a matter of, I tend to, you can see it. I'm an ice cream guy, right? So do I want vanilla or, butter pecan or whatever it is? Just, they're both elite ice creams. What flavor do you want? That's all. I want some ice cream now.
Oh, totally. Oh my good chocolate chip cookie dough. Hey, can I tell you about our friends at Legacy Partners? And some of you have already made the call. If you're watching right now, hopefully you're enjoying it. You make the call and find out what thousands of Metro Detroiters have already found out. They can help you with your home, your auto insurance, whatever the case may be, because our friends at Legacy Partners are one of Southeast Michigan's top independent insurance agents, and they provide a full-service, one-stop solution for all of your insurance needs, personal, business, large, or small. What are you waiting for? Just go get the quote. You can find out for yourself what so many others have, as they've helped our listeners by fixing mistakes other agents have made, asking the right questions to get the right coverage put in place to properly protect you. Yeah, and oh, by the way, save you some money. Chances are, if you haven't checked your policies in the last year, you are paying too much and you could be underinsured. Enter Legacy Partners. Give them the chance to help you, as they've helped so many of our listeners with your home, your cars, life insurance, Medicare enrollment, business insurance needs, whatever the case may be. Get your quote. It'll help us out. Most importantly, it'll help you out. Call them today at 586-209-4106 or visit legacypartnersins.com to get started with your new quotes. Can't thank them enough. Our friends at Legacy Partners. Scott, as you mentioned, again, I think a lot of people were sitting there at that point in the draft, as you described, saying, okay, goodness gracious me, how on earth is Arnold available at this point? No brainer. And I heard people, and I get it. We're in a society today where a lot of people are almost looking for the negative in a situation when everybody's just blathering all over themselves. Well, what did it cost them? What did it cost them? I don't give two craps when you get a guy like that, an impact player, at a spot that you didn't expect him at 24, you go make that move.
Absolutely. I think if you were to have polled, 100 people pre-draft and you were to tell them at some point tonight, the Lions are going to trade up for Terry and Arnold. If it were to have if it cost you a third rounder and potentially a future early pick, I think most people would have said yes, sold. And they did it for a third rounder, right? Like, and that was the gift of all those players. They gave up to pick 73 for him, correct?
Yep.
So that's the gift of all those players all the defensive players getting squeezed out of the top 14 was a player like Arnold was available, and doing the whole run up to the draft. You look at players like that and you're intrigued with all that stuff, but there's in the back of your mind, you're like, yeah, he's never going to be available. He's just not going to be available.
Yeah.
So yeah, he'd be great in Detroit. He's a perfect fit in Detroit. The way he plays, as tight as he likes to be in coverage, it's super cool to watch. Like, hey, I'm going to tuck myself up underneath your jersey and just carry me with you when you run your routes. He's like a blanket. He really is. He is not overly fast, he ran 4.5, so he's fast. But he's not 4.35 speed. Like Quinion Mitchell ran 4.33. He's more of a zone type corner than Arnold is. Arnold's plenty fast. He's very quick. He's loose hipped and all that stuff. He can move laterally. He can do all those things. He's very competitive and very instinctive in all those things. It's just there's a knock. It's that he's not going to recover against super fast guys.
No, I'm having East Tabor flashbacks.
But he's fine, right? So it's not like he's slow. But if there is outside of that, I mean, he'll tackle, he'll do, it's amazing the Lions ended up with that guy. So now you look at their secondary, their defensive backs from the championship game. And you can think about who's here. It's like, okay, you have Carlton Davis, and I know you gave up a third for him. Good player, but he's not signed for a long time. And Amick Robertson, short, but a good player and can play, has some inside outside versatility. Good player, competitive, fiery, all that stuff. Not signed for a real long time here either, right? So it's not like you could make those two moves. This is the difference. In the past, a general manager would have just said, all right, we addressed the secondary. We're moving on. We're going to address something else. And Holmes's, dedication to hitting that room is going to pay off both now and in the long term. So I believe him when he's talking about building this thing for not just now, but for the long term. Those two moves are that, right? 3-4 years from now, both those guys should be playing and starting for the Lions. And you would hope playing at a high level enough to keep them in a winning window. It's just that, what do they offer in year one? Maybe Rakestraw doesn't start in year one, but I think Arnold does. But, the idea of having Rakestraw as a backup in year one and just all the depth that's there that they just have not had before. You know what I mean? Like, this team is, when you look at this team, man, again, they were one or two plays away from being in the Super Bowl. They got better, they got better on the draft's first 2 days. They did.
Blake, go ahead. And Corey and David have a couple comments I'll get to, but Blake, you go ahead before we get to that.
No, I was just going to ask, what other teams do you think had picks, especially early, that have really good fits? Because there's one that comes to mind for me, but I would love to know what other teams their pick was just like a perfect fit, like Arnold seems like he was for the Lions.
I thought the Steelers had an incredible draft. Troy Fautanu fits them perfectly. He's going to play at a high level wherever they want to play him. They also had Zach Frazier, who's going to play at a very high level as a center for them. And then they added Mason McCormick, I think in round 4, who was a player I would have been, if I was in the Lions draft room, I would have been pounding the table for that dude, pretty early in day 3. I love what the Steelers did. I think that as far as fits go, I like Quinton Mitchell in Philly. I think Cooper DeJean in Philly is fine too, but I think they're telling you exactly what we were talking about, is that he may have to play a little bit of safety too. But yeah, I think like Brian Thomas is a really nice where he ended up in Jacksonville. He'll be a nice player with Trevor Lawrence. Thinking about Brian Thomas, 6'3", 210, 209, whatever it was. And I think if he runs at the LSU Pro Day, he's in the 4.2s. And just like, good luck covering that. Just not, right?
Yeah, he's a freak.
Yeah. So, there were some nice fits. I think Marvin Harrison is a nice fit for Kyler Murray. He's a really good football player. He kind of got run down a little bit in the process because he didn't participate exactly how people in the NFL wanted him. Caleb Williams did a little bit of that himself, but there were some good fits. I think that we talked about Joe Alt earlier. I don't love the idea of Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze in Chicago. I don't love that idea as a Lion. Don't love it.
Okay,
I
was gonna say you just don't like them together.
No, I don't like the Bears offense right now with DJ Moore and Odunze and Keenan Allen and Cole Kmet and Caleb Williams. I'm not a fan of it.
No, that team is.
I'm a little afraid of it.
That offense is filthy.
Well,
Yeah,
you know what?
like
Let the rookie quarterback make his mistakes. I'll be terrified next year. How's that?
Sure.
Corey said, are they expecting Mosley to be healthy by camp? If so, how deep is the DB room? It seems that these two fit Glenn's schemes better than the others. And Scott, what do you put into the RAS scores that have been discussed and as a draft analytic? You and I have discussed RAS for a few years, Scott, and there are a few stories with that we'll keep between ourselves. But go ahead and answer Corey's quandaries.
So I would. I don't even know if this is a reach, but I would think that just paying attention in particular to what Aaron Glenn likes his defensive backs to do, I would guess that Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw were 1 and I don't want to be hyperbolic here, but it's reasonable to say they could have been 1 and 2 on the Lions draft board as far as cornerbacks goes, just because the competitiveness, the willingness to come up and tackle, the physicality, the fire that they play with, all that stuff that just reeks what this current group of decision makers like out of players, on top of all of the physical talent, right? So yes, those two guys are perfect fits for what Aaron Glenn likes to do. Relative athletic score is it's just a function of a large group of athletic measurables in relation to how big you are or what your size is. Or the beauty of that thing is that it's a group of measurables in relation to how fast you are. It depends on what you want to put emphasis on. So you can, it's a score of a bunch of things like, short shuttle, 20-yard shuttle, 10-yard split, 40-yard dash, height, weight, vertical, broad jump, all that stuff. So it all kind of goes into one. And obviously the elite athletes score really high. I would think that just by the very nature of what it is that NFL players do, the more athletic they are, the earlier they're going to get drafted. Does that make sense? So elite guys are going to get drafted.
Scott, I want to make it crystal clear because I hope it didn't come across that way. Like, I think it's fantastic. There's no doubt. Give our buddy Math Bomb. Somebody said, tell the RAS story. I think one of the problems with something like that, and please tell me you remember this. Our friend at one point in time just put way too much of a premium, in particular to the running back position.
Yeah.
And he based his argument on RAS. And I said, well, that's all fine and dandy, but running backs aren't used that way anymore. He can be a great athlete, but there's a reason. And this is probably, Scott, do you remember that? I still remember.
This is back when the whole bell cow thing was no longer a thing.
It wasn't. And it's like, and people were still arguing it like years later too. I mean, not that long ago, we finally got it out. So it's funny that earlier in the show, you brought that up. It's like, sorry, I'm not thinking about a running back anytime soon. And this particular person, and a person that he was adamant about, he was like, this is a first round talent. And I said, I don't care if he's a first round talent.
Yeah.
He could have the greatest RAS score in the history of mankind. The NFL isn't played that way anymore. It just isn't. And I think, like so many of the analytics, I am not let's throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think there's a lot of purpose to analytics in sports across the board.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people sell themselves to it and it becomes the gospel to them.
Oh,
And
100%.
I think that's a terrible, terrible thing to do. I really do.
There's this advanced stat with wide receivers where people are concerned about their breakout age. And it's like, you have never seen this player play before, ever, have you? You're talking about looking at their breakout age and getting whether or not they got, I think it's like 30% of the share of a passing offense at the age of 18 or 19, and how that correlates into future success. And I get that it does. But, if that's all we're doing, we're just kind of putting numbers into a spreadsheet. And now this is who you should take. And it just ignored. And I get it because I think there's a ton of analytics that measure things you can't necessarily measure and bring a ton of value to the way you think about things. But in the end, you do have to consider and things they do well, and the things, your particular quarterback and the things that he likes, all that other stuff. So it's all a blend. They're all large pieces of the puzzle. I mean, the relative athletic score thing is great, just from a function of, it gives you a blend of a player's athletic abilities and as compared in, players in the past and all that stuff. But we do have to understand that times change, things change. I think that we're going to see teams get a little heavier and maybe run more than they have in the last 10 years or so, because a lot of defenses have gone nickel and dime and have gotten smaller. And the way to beat that is to get a little bigger. So we'll see. It's interesting though, because that whole conversation was had last year about the Lions draft class. That was the entire argument.
100%.
Right? But it's like right now, I am very happy they took Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah.
Right? So some of it, we got to let it play.
Blake, very quickly, if I may, and this is where, me, I mean, I can use any excuse to get back to hockey. I can't tell you, I'll be point blank with you. I think a lot of times it's guys who really want to be the smartest guy in the room. And the problem when you want to be the smartest guy in the room is the smartest guy in the room knows that he doesn't know everything. That's to me, that's the smartest guy in the room. The guys that pretend to be the smartest guy in the room are the guys that say, nope, this is my system and this is foolproof and this is the gospel. And I think you're fooling yourself. Remember Corsi. Corsi was big and still used. And people are, their Corsi score is terrible. Well, the Boston Bruins had, I think they were 30th in the league in Corsi score. They also had a guy named Tim Thomas, and they took him all the way to the Stanley Cup.
Sure.
And when the Habs had those really good teams, they always had a poor Corsi score. There was a guy named Carey Price who for a couple years was no doubt about it, the best goaltender in the National Hockey League. And I think when people tie themselves so hard to those types of things, they do exactly what we were talking about last night, Blake. It's like everybody's so black or white now. Well, sometimes things are gray, and there are exceptions to rules, and oftentimes there are quite a few exceptions to the rules. So I think when you live by a hard and fast rule, you're fooling yourself. Just one.
It's always gray, and if anything, that learn
Florida scored again.
Looking at NFL stuff for you, even the Penix pick
Mm-hmm.
is going to surprise people for how it may work out. Like people were crushing C. Stroud, just before the draft a year ago, because they were calling him dumb because of the cognition test. Like,
well, he is 0-2 againds Michigan.
Well, there's a lot of people that are 0-2 against Michigan.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to remind people though.
It's all good. If that's kind of the thing though, is staying away from the super black and white stuff. Like, all right, Caleb Williams is going to be an All-Pro, and he'll win multiple Super Bowls, and and Bo Nix sucked because he was the sixth of these. He was the sixth of these 6 quarterbacks drafted. Like, no, we don't know that, right? So,
all right. Let me get a couple. Tim, I think you stumbled upon a point. He said, it can't help but feel if the lines continue to rise, teams might place more emphasis on the run game. Tim, it might come back the other way. I mean, honestly, people might look at that, but you have to remember, this isn't a guy that's going to come in and rush the ball 300 times. Do you really want to go up there and get that guy that's going to rush it 300 times? Or do you want to, as Scott brought up earlier in the show, say, all right, there's this guy sitting there in the second or third round. We'll give him 150. We'll give this guy that we can pick up on waiver, free agency, whatever the case may be. We'll give him 150. So yeah, I mean, it goes both ways. Hold on a second.
The Lions they very well may have drafted a safety out of Utah who may be their number 3 running back instead of playing safety. It's possible. He's that good as a running back.
Yeah.
Right. So you can find those guys, he's going to be in a battle with Craig Reynolds, but still, it's you need those guys. You just do. David Montgomery's dinged up. Jameer getting hurt. They're going to miss time. You need players that can keep your offense going. It's much more efficient and effective to do it with multiple players instead of trying to find one.
All right, what do you got, Blake?
What do you agree with me that what the Chiefs did isn't fair? Xavier Worthy with Patrick Mahomes is not fair.
No, but it's strange. I don't know how much we talked about Quinn Ewers on this particular show. I don't know if Quinn Ewers just kind of stinks and maybe is not all that effective throwing deep down the field or what it is. But like Xavier Worthy, he ran 4.21, set a record. He averaged 13.5 yards per catch last year. Weird. Like those, you would expect a guy who runs like that to be incredibly effective with the ball in his hands and have much more than 13.5 yards a catch. However, we know Andy Reid is an offensive guru. He really is. And I would imagine they will scheme and game plan things for Worthy. And maybe that's, short yardage throwing. But yeah, I mean, AFC is, it's a monster. They clearly got more dynamic on offense as if they needed to get more dynamic on offense. It's unfair, but don't allow them to do it. Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
the Bills.
Yeah. It's, I mean, they're one of the places where I think Worthy could go and work. I mean, they have an interesting offense. Kelsey re-signed for 2 more years. I don't know what's happening with Rashee Rice and some of the off-field stuff, but yeah, I mean, it's like, it seems on paper, it seems unfair that they just added a player that fast. I mean, that's Tyreek Hill kind of speed. And we already saw what a player like Tyreek Hill could do in that offense. So, yeah, it's unfair. It's sure.
So fast.
Scott, I'm going to ask you about Giovanni Manu, and already, he has come out and said today, I'm sure you saw it, but for the benefit of people out there, that the Lions have told him they view him as a right guard, which immediately to me made me say, okay, they need maybe even a couple tackles. But your thoughts on that pick, and again, just my perception, I think they might need a couple tackles.
Yeah, I mean, so Decker is getting older. He's in this effectively the last year of his contract. He's got a void year after this year. So they're going to extend him. And my guess is it would be like a 3-year kind of, who knows? But they're going to do that. I'm curious about the Manu thing, because I wonder, I know the idea is to get him to the right side of the line of scrimmage. But if we look at this in an incremental way, so your footwork is different. Your kick foot is different if you're on the left side as opposed to the right side. And it might take a little time for him to work that stuff out. It's not as easy as a lot of people. Oh, just flip him over and let him play right guard. It's easy. No. So I wonder, I know that they've talked about him being a right guard, but I wonder if this is an incremental move to get the footwork tied together. All right, you're now going to kick with the inside of your left foot instead of the inside of your right foot. So this year we're just going to work on that sort of those movements, and his future still could be as a tackle. It could be when Decker is done and maybe Penix goes over to play left tackle. But the process behind getting him to play right as a right tackle is absolutely getting him to get his feet right. And to me, making, almost taking like baby steps in year one and letting him work as a guard as he figures his feet out would make sense. If you were eventually going to let him transition out to play tackle, I wouldn't want to just say, hey, go over there and play right tackle and sink or swim kind of thing. So, I mean, I think there's an element of, it's not babying him, but this is a multi-year deal. This isn't a this year kind of a thing with him. So I think this is a long-term thing where this is 2 years out kind of deal, and we'll see what it looks like. He can bend, he can do all those things, but a lot of this stuff is looking at it, him against lesser competition. But at 6'7" and 3/8 or whatever he was, that's tall. For him to be playing guard, that's tall. So
yeah,
he'll have some pad levels, some leverage issues. But I just wonder, year one is rep you as a right guard to eventually get your feet worked out to then be able to kick you outside. But for what we know right now, yeah, they do need tackle help. It's I think they still have Skipper as their swing tackle, but you can only address so many things. We'll see.
Yeah. What did you think of the 2 6th-round picks, Wingo and Mahogany?
So Brad Holmes is really good at this. It felt like he crushed the early part of this draft, and he's so good at this, it almost felt like he went on vacation in rounds 3 and 4, right? And just kind of was like, oh, let's play around a little bit. And then in round 6, he got back to business, because in round 6 they crushed round 6.
Yeah.
Mekhi Wingo is a really, really good football player. He's got inside out versatility. He could play on the edge at times. He's very quick. He's just he's 6 foot and I want to say 280 some pounds. So he's a touch undersized. But if you're looking at needing some interior pass rush, he gives it to you. A lot of it. He's a very explosive guy for being 280 pounds. He's just a little smaller than I think teams wanted a 3 tech to be. I can't believe he's there in round 6 though. Like, he's very productive. You can see him splash all over the place.
Tampa scored.
Really, really, really nice pick. Should not have been there. And then Christian Mahogany might even be a better pick. If you think about what it means or what it looks like to be just a nasty, really dirty guard, that's him. Like, he's got very heavy hands. He's very physical. He's really athletic too. So he's not just, like a guy who's just mauling people all the time. He can move. And him in rounds, I think they were in a situation where they had a weird injury this year. It wouldn't surprise me if Mahogany stepped in and played like right now. He's that good. As a rookie, he's really good. He should another one. I know. It's crazy to think that he fell. Now I don't know what his injury situation is. Injuries caused him to fall a little bit, but from a talent standpoint, from a physicality standpoint, he's up for it. He could pull. He does all kinds of stuff. Definitely a player you'd want in a power running attack, pulling. Boston College ran behind him all the time because they could trust him. Great pick. Just hammered those picks. I just, both of them were like, shouldn't have been there. I want to say both of those guys were in, Dane Brugler does all the draft stuff for The Athletic, and both those guys were in his top 100. So
that's huge.
Yeah. Both those guys I think both of them are going to make the team. I think Manu makes the team. The cuts cutting it down to 53 has been tricky in the past. It just got, it got more challenging, but that's what happens when you develop and you become a really, really, really good football team. And that's where they are.
I want to get your thoughts on some of the needs. Now, I didn't hear a lot of complaining and the weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth, but, people talked about wide receiver. People talked about getting Hutch help up front. I want to get your take on that. But first, I want to tell you about our friends from the Wealth Advantage Group. And I do mean the word friends. They've been buddies of mine for a long time, the Handsome brothers right there. And if you are ready to take charge of your financial future, look no further than those two. Well, the whole Wealth Advantage Group, located in a historic downtown Northville, owned by two brothers with over 20 years of industry experience. They understand that your financial goals are as unique as you are. That's why they offer personalized expert guidance to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning. Listen, give these guys a call. Tell them that we sent you. They will take care of you like they take care of me, like they take care of everybody. There's a reason they've been so successful. And whether you're saving for retirement, getting ready to sell your company, already in retirement, doesn't matter. They can help guide you through every step of your financial journey. They work with clients throughout all stages of life and have clients in over 20 states. The investment world is a complex one. So if you're ready to start taking your finances more seriously, it is time to work with the experts. Reach out to my friends at the Wealth Advantage Group at 248-773-8574 or view their website at www.thewealthadb.com. As I mentioned, make sure that you tell them that we sent you. They will take care of you. You will be glad that they did. As David said, no goal, so we'll take that air horn back with a record skip right there.
Sean,
yes.
Real quick, before you move on to the things that the Lions didn't, I just wanted to ask Scott, was there any other drafts that he hated? Because we got the good. I want to know
Scott
the
is
other
so
bad.
full of love. I don't know if he's capable of hate. I don't.
We just talked a little bit ago about everything being gray. We're not going to talk about hating drafts because in 2 or 3 years, this little stuff we got going on is going to be on the internet somewhere. talking about how we hated this draft and they're going to be full of Pro Bowl.
I want Scott in a promo for the Raiders just bashing the Brock Bowers pick, and he's like the best tight end ever.
Brett said, did Amon-Ra getting top wide receiver money overplay things for the future when they have more free agents? Start there, and then give me your thoughts on the wide receiver room now as a whole as we sit here, on April 29th?
I mean, to me, it feels like an underpay. Right? So you've got him for his 4th year. You have him for 4 more years. So 5 years. I want to say, I don't know exactly what it's like 5 years and whatever it is. He deserves every penny he got. He is kind of the straw that stirs it all. Mm-hmm. With their offense. This is the price of drafting really good football players, is that you eventually have to pay them. So same thing with Sewell. You've got him for 6 more years. He is, I think, their best football player. You're going to have him from the age of 20 through the age of 29. I like it. It's good. As far as wide, I know they didn't draft a receiver, but they still have a bunch of money left over. I would imagine a player like Tyler Boyd. I don't know exactly what's left in the free agent market, but I would think the Lions would be players in both the wide receiver market and as at the edge, like, sign an edge defender to a 1 or 2 year. The Lions like these guys to sort of prove it deals. I could see somebody, and I think that's what the safety market was doing all along as well. And I could see the Lions kind of playing around there too. Waiting for the draft. Like, why, if I'm a veteran safety or a veteran receiver, I don't want to sign somewhere for 1 year to then have them draft somebody who's going to then push me out of a starting position. So let's just wait. Yeah. So we're going to see some stuff shake loose. I think, and I would expect the Lions to sign a receiver, perhaps be involved in the safety market, and then get a little bit of edge help. It's kind of what I expect. So, what the names are, I don't really know. But yeah, I mean, there's help out there for sure.
Blake, are you finally a Lion fan? Yes, you are. Don't shake your head. No, don't you do that. I will call Uncle Lomas right now and he will scold you. You're in. Whether you like it or no, you are in. Well, you know what? You're not coming over to my house for a barbecue then. Only the Lions fans are invited.
You gave him every opportunity. He refused.
I don't like your food anyways.
Oh, boy.
Corey said, in the words of Teddy KGB, pay the man his money. It was millions. Couldn't agree more.
Can I just say, I really like this team. I like this roster. And I've grown up not a Lions fan, so it's hard for me to just be like, whoa, now I'm
Darren
a fan.
Can come over. Tell Darren he can come over. And I bet you he'll sit back and he'll go, this is unbelievable corned beef. I bet you he'll say something like that. Tim, you are an educated man. I've screamed this for years and years and years. Scott, I know you've joined me as well. There are going to be cap casualties. Just can't remember when. It is, Scott, every year it happens where, like, after the first round, somebody has a meltdown. It's I don't know, maybe they want views on their posts or whatever the hell may be. And it's like, dude, there's a round 2 and 3 tomorrow. And then there's a round 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then you can go out and sign undrafted guys. And then you can wait and get guys off the scrap heap. And somebody else's garbage can be a darn good fit for you. I'm not saying star. It's fascinating to me how people forget that there are many, many different ways between now and the start of the season, how they can upgrade those particular areas.
And they will.
Yep.
They will.
I know we only have a couple minutes, and I can't thank you enough. And I hope that you will come to a barbecue and maybe we can talk about the Jets going Jets. I know it hurts your heart, but we'll save that for another day. They are, though. They are.
I know they are. Would Cale McCarr just stop for a minute?
He's
just knock it off.
goalie. I said this to Sean last night. That goal, I watched it like 20 times through. It's incredible.
And I'll tell you what, I thought they were on the ropes. I really did. I didn't like the way they played like the last month of the season. And Blake, you can get my back here. I said it like a month ago. I was like, there's something off in Colorado, and they're playing so poor. And after that terrible first period in game 3, they look like a totally different team now. I mean, really, the last 2 periods in this last game, it's like, where the hell did this come from?
And they just keep coming. Like, it's like, okay, I mean, I know who they are because I'm a hockey guy, but like, it's all right, knock it off. You're like a third line player and you got 34 goals in 4 minutes, but like, yeah, yeah, it's a bummer, but what are you going to do?
Yeah. 2-1 last I heard. I've enjoyed, by the way, and if you didn't know this about Scott is a big hockey fan. I've enjoyed this Vegas Dallas Star series. I'm telling you, there's still nothing like watching a goaltender put a spell on a team. The goaltending that I saw in game 3, and I know they eventually lost in overtime, but it was awesome. I mean, and it was, Blake, I don't know how much of it you saw, like stoning guys on breakaways. Like Tyler Seguin had 2 breakaways in the span of about 2 shifts. And he's just stoning guys left and right. I love seeing that stuff. Absolutely love seeing that stuff. Scott, what do you got going on before we get out of here? What do you got coming on the docket? This is the opportunity to pimp everything that you're involved in, my friend.
Nothing. No, I'll be doing some podcast stuff, some YouTube stuff for Detroit Lions podcast.
Good.
And I'll be
good
cats back with you guys, and
you come on anytime.
Yeah, it's good. We're good. It's again, there's a lot of snap reacting and all that stuff to where we are right now with the draft and all this stuff that's going on. But we doing this for long enough that you just know that that kind of stuff is always that's bad process because it's gonna come back to bite you.
Yeah.
So just kind of. I love where the Lions are. I think they've done just a magical job in 4 years of taking that team, as bad as they were 4 years ago. It's incredible to putting them in a situation where my kids are 16 and 18 and they're going to watch the Lions be competitive for a long time. It's awesome. It's just incredible to think about it. So,
well, you have to come in for one of the greatest things of all time, the schedule game. I love the schedule game.
You always have.
It is such a useless waste of time, and I love it. I openly admit it. It is the dumbest exercise I do all year, even more dumb than the first mock draft that you look at in like early January.
And that's pretty dumb.
And that is incredibly dumb.
Yeah.
I didn't do that this year. We should have saved one of those mock drafts and mocked it and seen how far off it was. Hey, listen, before we get out of here, though, let me tell you about our friend, Lindsay Broadwell. Listen, if you are in the process of selling your house, you're looking for a house, maybe both, you need to contact the right agent. And there she is. It's Lindsay Broadwell. Your house is probably the biggest investment you'll ever make, and that's why you need to go with a pro. Lindsay grew up on the main streets of Northville and has expanded her team all over Southeast Michigan. She's an expert in all facets of the business. And when it's time, our friend Lindsay and her team will make sure you get the most out of your house and that everything goes smoothly when finding your new home. Buyer, seller, first-time buyer, doesn't matter. Make sure you contact Lindsay at BroadwellHomes.com. She will help you with everything from start to close. Licensed realtor at Real Broker LLC. Start your search today at BroadwellHomes.com. Scott, always a pleasure. Let's do it again soon. David, Thank you very much. Good show as always. Corey said, please don't go killer and say 8-8. Wait, can't do that anymore. Thank God. I used to love killer. 8-8. It just you could set your watch to it. Let's do it again soon, Scott. Blake, thank you. Todd, thank you. Most importantly, thank you for joining us. What?
If everyone could please go subscribe to the YouTube channel, I would really appreciate it. Ever since I started saying that, our YouTube subscribers have gone up.
Have they?
Yeah.
Listen, seriously, if you're watching right now, could you please, pretty please, 2 things. support those who support us, okay? And secondly, go do as Blake said, please.
Yeah.
Pretty please.
Do it.
I don't know what it means, but if Blake and Todd are telling me that people have to go and like our YouTube page,
Important.
go, okay, I'll take your word for it. I don't know. Stay in my lane. You know what I mean? So that's exactly
And
it.
the link is in the chat.
Yeah, Cornstalker, you can never come in again if you want. He said, I miss KMZ. Killer was the best. KMZ was awful, and it took years off of my life. All right? All right, we'll see you guys. Take care. Bye-bye. God bless you.
Off the Air with Sean Baligian, featuring Sean Baligian and Blake Majchrzak. Produced by Todd Losey and Blake Majchrzak. Executive produced by Sean Baligian and Todd Losey. Theme song, incidental music, and related sound effects are from Play It Loud by Jam Studio. Engineering, mixing, and graphic design support provided by the Unsyndicated podcast team. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Off the Air with Sean Baligian on all your favorite channels. While you're there, be sure to rate and review the podcast. Got something to say to Sean? Call the Unsyndicated hotline at 248-237-3257.